scientists did a super weird experiment. They asked chickens to judge which human face was hotter or more attractive. And guess what? The choices made by a flock of chickens and a group of college students turned out to be almost exactly the same.
You're probably thinking this is just a joke, but it's actually a real paper published in the journal Human Nature. Researchers from Stockholm University wanted to figure out a deep question. Is what we find hot or beautiful shaped by our culture and modern trends, or is our brain just naturally wired to like certain visual features? So they decided to ask a judge who is completely unaffected by human beauty standards, a chicken.
The experiment was split into 3 steps. Step 1 was teaching the chickens to tell male and female human faces apart. The researchers brought in 6 chickens, 4 hens, and 2 roosters. They started with 2 faces, an average male face and an average female face. Now, these weren't photos of real people. The researchers combined 35 male photos and 35 female photos to create these average faces. Then they trained the chickens to peck at the opposite sex. For example, if a hen saw the male face and pecked the screen, she got a food reward. If she pecked the female face, she got nothing. They did the exact same thing with the roosters. After just 18 rounds of training, they quickly learned to peck at the opposite sex. Step 2 was letting the chickens play judge and score the faces. The researchers set up 7 different faces using image processing. They ranged from very masculine, slightly masculine, average male, a neutral middle face, average female, slightly feminine, to very feminine. They numbered them 1 to 7. These masculine and feminine traits were based on real data. For instance, more masculine faces usually had sharper jawlines, stronger brows, and wider noses. More feminine faces had softer outlines, bigger eyes, and smaller noses. Next, they showed the chickens these brand new faces. This time, there were 0 food rewards. The researchers just recorded which faces the chickens pecked and how many times. If a face got pecked more, it meant it was hotter and more attractive to the chicken.
Step 3 is where it gets really funny. The researchers brought in 14 college students, 7 guys and 7 girls. They showed them the exact same faces one by one and asked them, "Would you date this person?" The students then scored the faces from 0 to 10. A 0 meant no way, and a 10 meant absolutely yes.
Finally, the researchers had 2 sets of data. First, how many times the chickens pecked each face. Second, the attractiveness scores from the college students. When they put the 2 graphs side by side, the results were mind-blowing. The 2 curves almost perfectly overlapped, with a correlation score of 0.98. To put that number in perspective, college students and chickens agree on human faces even more than your phone's battery percentage agrees with its actual battery life, or your car's fuel gauge agrees with its actual gas level. In short, the faces the chickens found attractive were the exact same faces the humans found attractive. And that is how we get the paper's title, Chickens Prefer Beautiful Humans. This conclusion really gives us something to think about. Obviously, a chicken isn't thinking, wow, this person has great bone structure and so much charm. They are just reacting to visual signals. So the real point here isn't the chicken, it's us humans. We always think of aesthetics as this very high-level thing. We feel like we love someone's face because of their cultural background, their life story, or our own personal taste. But some beauty preferences might be way older than culture. They might just come from the basic rules of how our brains process visual information, like clear features, easy-to-recognize patterns, and typical shapes. Our visual system is probably doing the filtering long before our conscious minds even notice. Of course, this one experiment doesn't prove that beauty is super simple. Complex human emotions are still a huge part of it. But at the very least, it shows that human taste might not be as far away from animal instinct as we think. Do we really know why we like the things we like? We like a face, a color, a song, or a certain style, and we usually come up with all sorts of reasons for it. But a lot of the time, the reason only shows up after we've made the choice. The brain creates the preference first, and then our conscious mind looks for an explanation later. This doesn't mean our choices are fake, but it does remind us of one thing. understanding our own instincts might be the very first step to finding true freedom.